This is Charlie Flowe here, World Sports Show. I'm joined with Sky Blue SC head coach Freya Coombe. I want to thank you, Freya, for taking the time out of your day and life to join me out here on World Sports Show.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me.
So, just want fans out there, players out there, people in the general public, just to get to know you a little bit better as a coach. Let's start how you started as a coach. Where did you first begin coaching, and how did you get into coaching?
Yeah, so I was at university when I started to coach, really. So I was studying sports studies at Staffordshire University in Stoke-on-Trent. And as part of my course, we were encouraged to go and take a coaching qualification. And being a football or a soccer lover, it was natural that I wanted to go and do my coaching qualification in soccer. So I started to go and help out at Port Vale Football Club whilst I was at university, and did some coaching in the community for them alongside getting my license. And then it just snowballed from there. I started to do more and more in the community for Port Vale and just really, really enjoyed it. So began there, starting up a women's team, being a player coach for their first women's team that they had, and it just kept going. It was fantastic.
What is that dynamic like about being a player coach? That I'm sure there's a lot of decisions you have to make that may involve you playing or not playing.
Yeah, so it was kind of strange to get the team off the ground. It was more at that stage with Port Vale. It was more me inviting all my college football team to come and play, and my friends that played as well. I was like, look, we need to create a team here. We've got a few players, but we need a few more. So guys, come on. So that was quite good, and it was more of like a social team and getting together. But we were good. We won the league and the cup our first year. So we had a bunch of ringers, which was nice, because we had to start in the bottom league. So that was a really good year. So there wasn't any sort of real team selection issues or any real issues that I kind of had to deal with or navigate. So that was a good experience. But I actually did the same thing at Reading, in the reserve team at the end of my career. I was coaching and still playing before I got injured and had to stop playing. So that was interesting. I had a really good assistant, a guy called Kieran. We worked closely together. So, I was on the field at the time, and it worked quite well because I could give him my feedback on how the pace of the game was going and different things I noticed. But then having him there on the sideline, it worked really well. So we'd discuss things before and after the game, at half time, for example, as well. And we're able to navigate through and be fairly competitive, which was great.
Yeah, you just mentioned Kieran, the coach that you worked with. What are some of the other coaches you've worked with throughout your career, to get you where you are as a youth player, a beginning professional, even a professional now, some of the coaches you've looked up to and helped you along the way?
Yeah, a key one for me was probably Lee Heron at Reading, working with him, and then Kelly Chambers at Reading, because I was there for so long. And just watching what Lee did, taking Reading's team from, starting them up as a women's team under Reading's club, and then bringing them through the leagues. So that was great to see how he managed the players and went about recruiting and created the environment and just brought that extra professional dynamic to it. And then working with Kelly in the first half in the Centre of Excellence with Reading. And then as she took over the women's team from Lee, it was interesting to kind of see her work, and then working with Jane Ludlow when she came in and did her stint with the club. So that was really, really good to sort of learn from those guys, just more around managing people, managing the environment. And then since moving over to the States, it's been good working with John Curtis at Everton America. So working with him was really good, just navigating more the American landscape. I think when I was a fresh-faced coach coming over and not really worked in the US before. And then working closely with the academy coach, Christian Gonzalez at New York Soccer Club. I learned a lot from him just in terms of game model and practices with putting together a playing style, playing philosophy, and just general standards of coaching and within the session. So I'd say that those are probably the biggest influences on my coaching journey right now. And since joining Sky Blue, and Marsha McDermott obviously is our technical advisor that we're working with. It's just been great working with her when she's got so much experience of working at the elite level, winning championships herself, working with a national team, and then helping navigate me through the college draft, which was a completely foreign concept for me, but one that was really, really enjoyable. But it was great to have her kind of guidance and just the process of it all, and the whole scouting piece before the draft.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the whole college system and the draft and the different terminology, it's something that I, as an American, sometimes have to get used to when we have these things like Sky Blue, and then my women's team Lone Star, when we have tryouts. Foreign players aren't used to that term tryout. They're used to the term trialist. They think, well, can I come over for a month? And it's a concept we all have to learn and adapt to. That a tryout may be 2 days long, and players think, what do you mean 2 days? I got 2 days. I think two days to make this team. So I'm sure that's an adjustment for you, just explaining that terminology to international players.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure, and it's hard at the moment when we're obviously a week into our pre-season and we've got people on trial coming in, and then we've obviously had to shut down. So that's a hard one to navigate as well, where they've come in for a little bit and then they've had to go away again, and then they'll come in however long this break lasts, and they're coming back in to continue their tryout. But it's a hard time for people.
Yeah. So the transition you've made, you've stayed along with the coaching, in England. Now you come over to the United States. What led you to make that move over here to the U.S.?
So it was something I'd always wanted to do, is coach full-time. The time when I was working with Reading, I was working as a lecturer at a university as well. So, I would do that Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and then I'd coach with Reading in the evenings and spend my Saturdays and Sundays either coaching, playing, or a mixture of both. So it was fairly busy, and I knew I wanted to make that transition, I think, to coach full time, and at the same time I wanted to live abroad and have a different adventure. And the US seemed like the great place to go in terms of professional sports. It's probably the best country in the world for that. For women's soccer, it's such a strong soccer nation, and then also it's an English-speaking country. I'm not great with languages, so I didn't want to pick up a new language and move somewhere completely different. So it seemed like a natural fit. So it was something a move I'd had my eye on for a while, but just hadn't really taken that step. And then, my mum got a little bit sick. She was, quite poorly, in intensive care. So I ended up quitting my jobs to kind of spend a bit of time with her. But at the same time, a job offer came up. So she recovered quickly, which was good. And I was able to make the move, kind of ditched her a little bit and came over to America. But she's doing great now. So it was worth it. She's happy to see my progress.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting part of whatever situation we are in as coaches, whatever's going on in the outside world, that technology has helped us bridge a lot of gaps just as being coaches. The online content, the way we can stay connected with families, the way you and I are doing this interview, used to doing everything in person. That's just the coaching model is now helping us with the online platforms. And I mean, I'm sure it's interesting just for you, coming over here working in the United States, just seeing the growth in the women's game throughout the world, and just in England, how it's becoming, England is now a world power in the women's game.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the growth of the game. So as I mentioned, I was, part-time, and there wasn't really the professional, full-time professional players as when I left England. It was just turning that way. There was a few professional clubs, but, now to see how, fully pro they've gone, the funding that they've got, the great job that the FA's done with like the structuring of the women's professional game. And then also the way the clubs have responded in adopting women's teams and the parity for some clubs. And how much they're providing. I know Reading are doing a great job with the amount of resources they put behind the women's team, and how for a long time they've been promoting the women's game in Reading. So I've been really impressed with clubs in that way, and how much they're getting behind and supporting their team. And, it's really showing with being a community club.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of good things come out of a lot of countries, and a lot of the infrastructure is there. I think that the thing in the United States, we're still partly in some of the early stages of developing the women and men's game in general, because of facilities that just, have to be shared and aren't soccer/football specific, but that leads me to, your vision with Sky Blue. I mean, you guys had a great relationship with Red Bull. You have to play in their arena last year. You're going to be able to use their facilities. I mean, that's a huge boost to you guys as a club, just being able to have those professional facilities.
Yeah, absolutely. A big thing that we've been focusing this year is, raising the standard. And I think, that's the vision of Elise and Tammy is, making sure that everything is the environment we've created has been raised upon previous years, and they've done a great job of doing that. And it's very much within that vision. But, it's for us now, it's holding the players to a standard as well as holding the coaching staff and everyone involved. And the facility is a huge part of that. Can we provide a top level standard, and then everyone else is accountable for, the standards within the club.
No, it's great. I mean, the things that you guys did last year, you joining the club, later in the season, what has that experience been like, just as a coach, being able to coach in the NWSL and the highest, women's league in the world?
It was fantastic, and it was really unexpected, to be honest. So I came into Sky Blue on the premise of observing a session and just watching the coaches work and just being around the game. And, with my experience at Reading, it was great. And it was something that I knew that I wanted to get back working at the top level with top level players. So I kind of came in just to see what they were doing and how the game has changed and how the game's different over here. And it was just, the timing was absolutely perfect for me and my development, because, it was a time when Sky Blue didn't have a lot of coaches. They just released some of their coaching staff, and there was a real shortage of coaches on the field with the players. So I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to help out with the session, just helping serve balls in the first session. And then it was like, okay, well, would you want to run this practice and this drill while we work over here? And it was like, yeah, of course. And that just kept going, and I was fortunate enough to be asked to deliver a session, and then it was go to a game and be part of that. So it was given more and more responsibility as the time went on. But that was really great for me to kind of get that experience and that exposure over a period of time before just coming in and starting afresh with a team. So you could kind of get to see the elements that I really liked about the way things were being run, and there were some really good strong elements to it, and then bits I might change that, I might tinker with this little piece. So it was kind of nice. It was almost like a little dry run before this season starts. So really enjoyed the team and working with the players, and I knew it was a place I wanted to be. It's great leadership, great players, great environment despite everything that the players had been through. And it was a place I knew I wanted to stay at and to continue with.
No, I want to thank you again for joining me and taking time out for you to come on World Sports Show. I appreciate everything you guys are doing in the women's game, everything you're doing to just help grow the game here in the United States. And just thank you again for joining me. We definitely touch base again. We'll sum up what you're doing, what your vision is, and keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Charlotte Flowe World Sports Show. I'm here with Steph Huntington, captain of the England women's national football team, always also known as Lionesses. Welcome back to Philadelphia. It's always good to guys to have you. How are things?
Yeah, really good. I think we arrived 2 days ago, so for us to be able to train yesterday and get used to being back in Philadelphia, we're in really good spirits and really good shape ahead of the first game.
How is training in environments like this? I mean, it's a lot colder here than you guys have been training in the Middle East. I mean, how does your body adjust to that?
I think being from Manchester and obviously back at home, it's always very cold and very windy. So for some of us, we're used to it, but obviously it's not the same extent as Qatar in January. But I think we're looking forward to playing here. We're looking forward to the conditions that we may face, but also the opposition we face as well.
Now, the She Believes Cup's been going on for a few years. You guys have had almost an instant rivalry built with the U.S. with some really close games. How do you approach this tournament, being it's a World Cup year versus a non-World Cup year?
We have to approach it like any other years. I think we want to win football games, and we know there's a process to do that. So for us, we want to implement the style of play that we have been playing over the last year and be defensively strong, which has been a characteristic of ours over the last few years. So we just need to make sure that we focus on the process of winning and giving ourselves a good account of ourselves over the last few years, exactly the same this tournament.
Over the last few years, you guys got third in last World Cup. The men finished fourth place. What has that been like back in your country now that women's football is really getting on the map and you guys are having great success on the field and off the field?
Yeah, I think obviously 2015 World Cup was a major turning point for women's football back in England. We knew that if we were some sort of successful, I think we knew that there was a lot more young girls wanting to play, that we were going to get more people coming to watch the league fixtures back at home. And I think ever since then it's just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and obviously reaching semi-finals of the Euros as well. We were close to reaching the final there. So we know that women's football and also men's football in our country, everybody's loving watching England play, and hopefully we can give ourselves a good account of ourselves this trip as well as the World Cup coming up.
You talk about everybody watching. Now that you have young girls watching, and I'm sure that things are getting better for young girls. I mean, how was it for you growing up? What kind of opportunities did you have and did you not have?
I think I was fortunate enough to be part of a village that really supported girls playing football, and from the area that I'm from, they love football up there. So there was a few teams in terms of being able to play for a team. There was a few teams I could play for, and I did that for my hometown team in Sunderland. And I think in comparison now, there's so many more opportunities for young girls to go and find a team, to get coaching on a regular basis, for players to become more professional at an earlier age. So I think over the years, I think I'd always be humble in the fact of my journey that I've been on to be here, but at the same time, I know that I've been a part of a journey that young girls will obviously take advantage over the next few years.
Looking at this as a World Cup year, and you've done this before, are there any type of superstitions or rituals that you just, I've got to keep to this worked last time and I'm going to do this?
No, I think I am quite a superstitious person in terms of how I prepare for matches, but I think within tournament years, I think first and foremost, you've got to try and stay fit and healthy, and keep enjoying your football and give yourself the best chance of performing at your very best. And as you get a little bit older, a little bit more experience, you know what works for you and you know what doesn't. So it's up to us individually to find out what works, and obviously to give the advice to the youngsters within the group if they need any help at all.
I want to thank you for your time and wish you the best of luck in this tournament and the World Cup. And just thank you for taking a minute with us.
Oh, thank you.
This is Charlie Flowe, World Sports Show, joined here with Rachel Breton, joining us live from New Jersey. I want to thank you for calling in the World Sports Show. Appreciate your time.
No problem, Charlie. Always a pleasure.
So how are things with you? I know that we're in a different kind of world. I know we have all kinds of new skills we're learning how to video conference, learning how to virtually train, learning how to virtually order food. How's this been for you?
Honestly, I know that I'm in a privileged arena right now where, I'm still getting paid for coaching. I'm still doing virtual trainings. As you know, I do social media marketing. So that's already in this world, in this domain. So that's still buzzing. And I'm with my parents. So that's been really good. I'm spending time with my family. And as I said to a couple of my friends and people, and I'll say it to you, is that, there's a needed national pause that I think that we all kind of, again, needed. Because for me, especially, my life has been so go, here, there. I feel like I was an Uber driver, and I just needed like a second. And this is like kind of like God's way of saying, okay, here's your second. Take a breather. So for me, I've been keeping busy, being creative, just like being very present. As zen as that sounds, like that's what it's been. And just trying to, like, firstly want to say thanks to the first responders, police officers, nurses, doctors. We wouldn't be there without them, and that's a tough job. And I'm trying to better myself as they help better us, and try to do my part.
Now, I think you hit a lot of it, the nail on the head, that my life is very similar to you, that us that coach for a living, we're constantly bouncing around and in different places, and it's like we still have that great work ethic and that great bounce around, but we have to limit it to a few space feet now, and we're not able to do what we love to do. But I mean, I've seen some of your tweets and some of your social media, and it's been like inspirational, and some stuff about like there's so many things that we can take advantage of staying home, like learning languages, learning different ways to even just think, ways to approach the game, the ways that we don't really sometimes have the time when we're coaches because we're so go. Everything's our face. But this is a really good time for us to learn who we are, and then also learn who our players are, learn who our fellow coaches are, and just work on relationships.
Yeah. Like as I wrote, I just like, I just actually had a conversation with a friend right now, just saying, I don't know how people could say that they're bored. Like that means that you've mastered all these languages and you've read all these books in different languages and songs in different languages. And that means you've done it all, and none of us has. So right now is the excuse, because I myself get, I'm hard on myself where I'm like, hey, you don't deserve to take that time off, or like that's not what a grinder does, whatever that means. And I feel guilty if like, hey, I'm gonna sleep in, whatever that means, and watch Netflix or be mindless, like, or like work on myself, because that's not what CEOs do. But like, based off of what, like, we're going off this timeline and structure that we think we should go with, but it's essentially like your own practice of who you are. Like, what do you really need to work on? What is essential to you? Maybe people value money more or less. Go with that. Like, what's your vocation? And do you have the courage to take that? And like, for me, family means more. Authentic relationships, friendships mean more. Responding back to people, reading, like these things like that are going to feed my soul to help me be a leader to others. That's essentially more important than going through the motions, which I think myself included, all of us can go through, especially if you're in the city and if you're in the profession where you have to. It doesn't really give us the time, the luxury to, hey, look, I just need to take a second.
Yeah, I mean, it's made me actually motivate myself to work even harder, because knowing that we don't know the future, and you always plan as a coach for, I mean, the worst thing we plan for is maybe an injury of a player, or maybe a thunderstorm, or maybe a tournament's rained out. We really have to, all of us, kind of take a second and pause and realize there are some industries, some jobs that may not exist. When it comes down to, some companies may have a bottom line, and you may not be on that bottom line. Some really players, coaches that have only put like almost all their eggs in one basket. And this is the time where go get some of those online certifications, learn something. Yeah. So when you come out of this, you have another skill, another asset to offer. I mean, case for example, you're a former pro and a former college player. So what you do is you have a college degree, and it's something that's come up through a lot of conversations that I've had with coaches that tell us to go right away. But let's be honest, if you go pro and don't make it, it's always good to fall back on that education and just being able to learn and being able to expand your mind, and not just be, I'm only a soccer coach. Because let's be honest, our sport doesn't exist right now. All of our diplomas, all of our licenses, technically they're meaningless right now because there is no soccer.
Right. No, and that's also a really good, important point, and something that I've always held dear, and it felt weird to express, because like, if you're a pro athlete, you're a pro soccer player, if you're an athlete, you're focusing on your craft, and your craft is essentially your sport, right? And your body. But I've always said from the beginning, like, who am I without this sport? Because that's the 3/4 of my life that I will have. Like, essentially people retire around, even like in the women's game, like 26 to 32, anomaly if you push it a little bit further. So then what are you going to do? Because everyone's living longer lives, and science has proven that. My grandpa's going to be 90, still healthy, doing autopsies. Like, what are you going to do for the rest of your 60 years? You can't label yourself as, I just played soccer, or I'm just this thing. So inevitably, like, and it's okay if you didn't major in something that, let's say you just decided to do history, and you had no idea that you wanted, like, you don't desire to do that, but that's okay. But now it's your responsibility to, as you said, like, do I like the fitness area? Do I get my cert? Do I get my NASM? Do I get my CSCS? Do I want to coach? Do I not want to be in that field at all? It's okay. And even if I decide to do that and I realize that that's not the right door, it's okay to start again and then pick a new door,
Yeah, I think that big valuable thing is being a jack of all trades, having a skill, having something that, we all society in general, because we all love what we do, but, push to the job, you have to take care of your family first and foremost. I think that one thing I really admire about you is that it's important. I mean, there's people, they're happy to be home with your family. I'm very happy. I've got a wife and a baby child that are my motivation to put, food on the table, and my motivation to say, if I never coach another soccer game, that's not a big deal to me, because I have my priorities. Sports, when we're just going to look a little different for now. I think the human race has gone through a lot worse of situations, but how do you come out in the end, that this is the time that a lot of us had wished for. If you were told, you get to just go chill for like a month, but you can choose what you do with that time. So it's all about choosing wisely, like all the Matrix, you choose the red pill or the blue pill. Which one are you going to choose?
Yeah. No, you're right. And like, it's funny because my friend was upset about this, and I was like, I mean, this is what we asked for, though. We're like, we just wish that we could just take a week. And yeah, it's longer than we expected, but it's it's what do you want to make time for? Like, people say I don't have time for things. It's like, what do you do with your time? Because essentially, like, that's our time can get taken away from us. So every day you have an opportunity to choose to be the better version of yourself, as trite as that is. It's true. And that could be from a 5-minute thing that you do to a drastic change to anything. But you essentially, like, I say this all the time, like, you can't judge others unless you shouldn't judge others, but you can't look at what that person's doing unless you know essentially like what you're doing. And you could always give input on certain things, but like, everyone has different values, and you have to make sure that your vocation matches your values. You know, if they don't, then you might not be in the right field. I'm reading this book called The Purpose Path, actually, by Nicholas Peele, and it's really, really, really good. I do recommend it. But he talks about that. You know, we have to have courage to have pause in these moments and figure out, like, okay, do my morals match this? And like, it doesn't mean that you're going to find the best and most amazing thing, but it means that, like, at least like when you get up and you do things, you're just going to feel better about it. And that goes with anything. You could be a potato carver, and but like, if it fills you, it fills you, and that's okay, you know.
No, it's a lot of those things that you've said of things that, like, we all take in stride, I guess you could say. And, you know, how can we make ourselves better, you know? And it's one of those things where that I know a lot of people are getting upset, and I'm included. All of us have got upset. I think we're allowed to get upset. We're allowed to vent.
Right.
There's a lot of problems that we all have, but there's been times in history and individuals I'm reading about that went through far worse situations. You know, I'm comparing a couple different scenarios. You look at people like Nelson Mandela, you know, falsely put into jail and has to be on Robben Island, some of the worst conditions ever, and he comes out and he's president of South Africa at the end. And it's like things like that there are so many people in this world that have been falsely accused, and they just did their time, behaved themselves in jail, had their day, and got out, and realized later it wasn't really a waste of my time. It's because I made myself better. Something bad's happened, and we're all in this together. So it's all these people that are upset. I understand. Everybody is allowed to be upset, but we're all in this together. So nobody's going to suddenly say, well, during those 3 months, I saw you didn't have a job, and I saw your credit was horrible. Are you kidding me? This is the time where I joke with people like, dude, like, why do you need to pay your bills? I know a lot of people are upset. Big thing you can do is take care of your family and feed yourself, okay? Like, great, your credit score got a little damaged. Who else's credit score is going to get a little damaged?
Yeah, I mean, mine did. Mine went down 5.
Yeah.
And I got upset for like a second that I was like, who cares though?
Exactly, you're alive, man. Like,
You know, the biggest thing that needs to happen now is, can we make our struggle our strength? You know, because adversity happens day in and day out, and you know, everyone's pain is everyone's pain. You know, I know that you shouldn't judge people's pains. People go through certain things, like you say, Nelson Mandela. I do not know if I would be able to do what he did, but in his world, he was able to do what he needed to do, and you know, essentially, like, everyone has their own purpose, their own story, their own struggles, their own adversities. The biggest things that we learn out of all of these characters, including, like, you know, DC Comics and Marvel, is like, what do you do with what you have, you know? And that's just essentially, like, right now, you know, someone, I read that someone was asking what's worse, Sandy or this pandemic, and people were saying Sandy because they didn't have Wi-Fi. But think about that.
Wow.
You know, like,
I mean,
essentially, like, it's crazy, and that's a comparison that's nuts.
It's how quick we've moved into that. Like, you know, I'm 43 almost. I guess I'm almost 40. I forget how old I am during this whole thing. And you're still technically 20s, but it's, I think the one thing that you tweet about, like, books and stuff like that, like, if the power goes out, the thing could, like, it's like, how many times have we gone through winter storms where we don't have the power for a couple of days? You bust out the flashlight, you read a book, you play some board games. A lot of things we have a problem differentiate between needs and wants. So many people, honestly, they will pick their wants over their basic life needs. And that's what the people, you know, they educate themselves on. That every time something like that, it's an opportunity. Let me look out on my bookshelf that I have 10 out of it. I mean, I didn't read. I'll be honest with you, I buy a lot of books, but it's so hard to keep track of, you know, everything you've read. Go back and read books a second time. It's there's so many, I guess, opportunities within that. Self-educate is something I think as a society we just need to put more weight on that. You know, I can go and read up and learn a lot of things in this and not get a college credit, but be more knowledge and be more fruitful.
Well, it's true. I was taking this screenwriting class with two former players, Dami Richardson and Kayla Mills, and we were learning how storytellers, we think that they could be great and they could be bad, right? Because people now, and this is what this woman was saying or listening to this TED talk, but people now are going looking at media and thinking that it's just fact. Like if anyone says anything, it's just fact. Instead of just going out and actually fact checking or just being not just understanding. Like I could tell you, hey, I heard that Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, they're gonna let it down, and we're gonna be able to go outside tomorrow. Then without you even really checking, start telling people, and then that gets.
Oh, I believe Rachel because she never tells me a lie.
Right, and it's and I agree with you that we just have to be more. Just take a second to be more knowledgeable.
Please.
If it's enough for you to repeat, then it's enough for you to know the facts.
Yeah.
The one thing that this TED Talk person said was, good intentions can have unintended consequences. And that's what that is, that you can have good intentions and you meant to say the story, you meant to do this thing, or, you meant to do the right thing, but it doesn't matter. You can still have unintended consequences. So again, it's what do you do with your time? What do you do with yourself? And how can you at least impact one more person? Because that's a domino effect in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, so many things that, believe it or not, I feel like I need another hour in a day because I'm constantly doing these types of, like you're calling into our radio show, but I'm constantly having meetings with other coaches, what we're doing and having success. This is a big time that we're in that share community. If I come up with an idea, I'm trying to share it. Like we're creating all these Google Docs and a couple of coaching clubs that I'm with, just keep sharing ideas of what is effective and what is not effective, because there's a lot of crash and burns, that you're trying to make a session work, and every single kid I coach has got a different setup at home. So I think the big thing that, a lot of clubs need to pull back, because there's a lot of these big clubs that are trying to still go at 100 miles an hour. Yeah. The biggest thing I start out every one of my meetings with my players is just a check-in. How are you doing? How are you? And never getting upset with the player being late, not making a call because you don't know what's going on. And I think that reflects back on us just being coaches in the real world, that I've been with some clubs that want me to reprimand, and bench players being late, but it's until they drive themselves to a field, learn the backstory on somebody.
No, it's true. That question is key. I asked my teams, how are you adjusting to this? And are you getting bombarded with all this schoolwork? Because it's also important because, as you said, a lot of these clubs are just go, here's this, because I get it from a business standpoint, those companies are still being paid to give a product, and it's now what do we do? How do we adjust? And I, props to those in those positions, because it's a tough one to call, but it's kind of having to, right now it has to be very hands-on, and it has to be very intimate with with your a team player. You have to figure out what's going on with them. Are they overwhelmed? Is this good for them? Is their family okay? Simple things, and actually get to know them and figure out how you can coach them better. At Princeton, we had these girls write a me essay, and they had to handwrite an essay explaining some things that I wouldn't know about you.
I like it. I'm going to borrow that. I like that a lot.
There you go. Things that you like, and then how can I coach you better? And it was interesting because, you get majority of the team responded, still working on the whole response, but that'll happen no matter what. But it was interesting to, what people focused on, me, I'm a psyche, I love psych and sports psychology, and it was interesting to see what you shared. Did you talk about the sport more? Did you talk about your dogs? Did you talk about dance? Did you talk about TikTok? Where are you? And it does help, because how they say that they could be coached better helps you understand how they function, how they work, and what matters to them. Did they say they want to be yelled at? Did they say good job? You figure it out. But yeah.
No, it's true, because as a coach, it's hard for us to know. I coach 5 different teams, so I'm not sure how many teams you've got. A lot of different personalities, and everybody's motivated in a different way. Some people, you can always say players are similar, but when it really gets down to it, there are some players that really need to be pushed and motivated, some that don't want to hear from their coach, some that really want to be complimented. And this is the time to learn as a whole, the individual player, that,
Right.
is keeping a lot of my meetings very light to start. I've been going to the format kind of intro, how you doing? We bring a guest on, we do some soccer trivia. So they're in a good mood. They're having some fun because you saw the competitive nature that I've done some of the virtual trainings where it's just the one, individual things, but I've got so many players that, like myself, that I'm competitive as heck. I want to win. I want to. I don't like just doing drills to do drills. I like to have an objective. I like to say
Yeah.
I'm trying to beat you or trying to. So we have little mini competitions, things like that. What are some of the things that you've, besides your little things that you've been doing with your team, just to share with the public out there listening to a World Sports Show now, that things that you've been doing that are effective.
I'm still trying to, as you were talking, I was like, man, things that our club has done that I find effective
Okay.
is that they've, like one of my coworkers is doing trivia, like you said, like watch a game, like what was the color of the penny on the sideline, and they would battle. I forgot what program she used, but she's also a teacher, so she has like this different kind of equipment that I'm like, damn, I could use that. But that's been good. Having them do these like team, the juggling the toilet and the toilet paper and the juggle and kick it to the next frame kind of thing. They've enjoyed that. I'm trying to figure out, you know me, I like to be a little authentic and not like a trendsetter, or a trendsetter, not a trend follower.
Yeah,
So
I know what you meant.
yeah, so I kind of want to do something different, nothing that you keep seeing overboard, because I think what's happening right now from a coaching and from a sports and training method is that everyone right now is a guru, either in yoga or in fitness, and every coach is doing kind of the same thing, so it kind of doesn't make you stand out amongst. So I want the girls to do something just a little different. But we've been doing game analysis, and we've been doing the Zoom chats, and I'll give them like something specific, like let's see why AC Milan is really good at this, or let's see why Barca's possession is magic in possession with a purpose, or how does Atletico defend as a unit, and why is this, or what was the breakdown with Real Madrid, stuff like that. And that's been pretty good. The girls have responded, and they'll share, stuff like that. But try not to overload them. But I also asked them prior, if I gave you a game to watch, 1, would you watch it? 2, would you watch the whole game? 3, would you watch just a half? And 4, would you really pay attention? Because I want to teach. I think what's lacking right now is that a lot of the girls don't watch the game, guy or girl. Well, I meant like the girls' side, they're not watching the guys or the girls. And I think it's important to have that player that you like, so you can add that to your game, something to reach for too, someone to look forward, look up to. Like my dad was mine, and then as I got older, I found these other players that I'm like, wow, I really love this, and I added that to my game. I want the girls to start to do that, and I want the girls to start to. I don't want to just tell them why is this good. I want they have to become their own mini Socrates. They have to say why. They have to ask these questions because it's important. So then they can say, you know what? They can understand how to watch the game and why it's important. Why is coach saying we need to switch the field? Why is it why now are we playing a 4-4-2 instead of a 3-5-2? Just these things that they could start to understand, because that is the missing element between being a successful player and team versus hey, I'm giving you this and you have no idea how this got there.
Yeah.
So that's been good because they can understand and they see that. But again, we haven't played, so I don't know if it's clicking or not. But it's good it's good for them to talk soccer the way that you and I would speak, or anyone that has been around the block for a while.
Yeah, I think that the big thing now is the opportunity to educate our players on every level. A lot of these things that I have coached every different level, really big clubs, neighborhood type of clubs, and some of the things that some of these clubs demand these kids to do on the field and then learn at home is an overload. So I think this is the time where they can just sit back and just be fans of the game, watch these games, with a critical mind, or just be a fan of the games. It's just find from these old games, like you said. I've worked on projects with my girls and boys teams about We had a little healthy debate when it was 4-4-2 versus 4-3-3. You're the coach. What do you put on the field? And it's just neat to hear their reasoning, about, hey, well, if we have them all lined up on a 4-3-3, it's easy to press. And it's just things that I didn't even ask my girls to do that they went and figured out, how, covering different angles and, and hey, we're not as good defensively and we're more exposed on this part of the field. So things like that, let your players learn on their own and figure and solve problems, because when we're on the sidelines coaching, we can only do so much, and I think that our sport's such a free-flowing sport with being soccer that we don't have timeouts. We don't get to bring them over to the sidelines. We want them to make independent decisions.
Exactly. And I actually had this conversation yesterday with someone, and we were talking about how joystick coaching is, well, not a fan of it. If you find me yelling at your every move during the game, then that means that you've not accomplished your goal at practice. And also you might have lost your audience because they're tired of hearing you. So
also, that's the thing is, what did you do during the week? Why are you talking so much to these players? I guess you had some crappy sessions, or you weren't even working on anything, playing kickball at practice.
Yeah, it's something else for sure. So I just, to your point, I agree. You just got to get these players to understand the game, love the game. And, I was told not to say this, but the game is fun. The game is fun. Don't say fun. Don't say fun.
No, I say that all the time. One of my biggest, things that I talk to, that when I take all these coaching courses and I hear all these people talking, at the end of the day, I don't care what level it should be fun. And technically, let's be honest, we're not saving lives on the field. We're coaches. It's a game. And I think it's like some of these coaches, you're too serious. Take a step back, get a life. It's fun. They're kids. And one thing I've learned is having an education background and being a social worker, that every kid processes information different. Every kid's reason to be here should be fun. If you're going into this game trying to be a pro or get a scholarship, you're here for the wrong reason. And you're not going to be focused on, wow, man, this was a fun game. How many times I felt better about a coach and a loss that we fought, we had fun, and we walk off the field having a good time because we put the effort in. But then when you have these teams that win, they're robots. They're just – are they there to please themselves or the parents? Are they there to impress a scout or impress a college coach? Why are you actually doing this? So, have fun with it. There's times in practices where you got to have some goofy sessions.
Well, you just got to, it's a sport. The sport's fun. And Messi even says it. They asked him, what does it feel like to be the best player in the world? And he was like, I don't think that I am, but thank you. But he said, look, the day that it becomes not fun for me, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
That is, the I believe the best player right now in the world saying that it's fun. It should be fun.
Yeah.
Because then why are you doing it? I think a sport job is very different from, I guess your typical 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Maybe attorneys find it fun. Maybe they find being an attorney fun, but that's great. But you find it more acceptable, or you hear it more, that athletes are having fun. It's fun to win. It's fun to hit a really clean ball and man, that's so much fun. Feels good. You should smile and love. Sometimes people's game face is a smile.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes it's just straight up resting face, but don't worry about it. Enjoy,
The biggest thing, the older I got, the more I got into the other end from being a player. And dude, I was a jerk after losses. I didn't shake your hand, I want to touch you. But it's funny, we mature, our brain matured at a different rate. I never want to game, but now you are getting, see players you play professional games. Even if you take a loss, you can still have, good conversations. You form these relationships. At the end of the day, it's just a game. And fans take it more serious than the players, and the coaches and the parents take it much more serious than the players. And we're like, we lost a game. I'm still alive, so I tried my best, so it's all good.
Well, we're all winners of a loser's game. Someone has to lose. So
say that one more time, a little slower. I gotta get that on bumper sticker.
We're all winners of a loser's game. So, I just find that I don't know. I don't think that makes me less or more competitive. Yeah. I just find it in the moment, let's go. As soon as it's done, it's done. There's no need and I've been guilty of it too. Like, man, I'm like, I can't believe in 2013 I did that pass. Like, but what have I gained from that negative experience besides the fact that I keep remembering it? Nothing, literally nothing. So
I'm the same way as a coach. I'm like, why did I sub Rachel in the 70th minute? Like, why? Because she made that pass.
Yeah, right. But it's nuts. Again, like the kids, like you gotta understand the balance. Are you having too much fun and not being productive? Okay, that's a different question.
Yeah.
Are you being too serious and not being productive? That's another question. You got to figure out who you are, what works well for you. There's in the book Mind Gym by Mackey. I think it's Mark. Either way.
Google it. I'll have the fans out there look it up. So, yeah.
Mind Gym. I think it's over there. Mark. This is bad. We're just going to leave it. Mind Gym. Go get Mind Gym. But he talks about it like you got to understand like how much like stimulus is too much or too little. Like, for example, Taylor Lytle loves to listen to country before a game. You give me country before a game, I'm not going to play well. I'm not like –
mentioned headphones. Headphones are a great invention.
Yeah, I'm like, man, that's not going to get me pumped. It's really not. But like mine is like, a little like, I like the way you work it, like a little bit, but like, if I'm just listening to like pounding EDM and all this stuff, I'm going to be so pumped that when I get out there, I'm not going to be productive because I've out psyched myself and vice versa. So you have to understand yourself. You have to understand your own, the way that you function. Like some people can eat at halftime. Some people can't. Like figure it out. Like, like there's no right or wrong. It's just who you are and like stick to it and don't worry about comparing yourself to others.
Yeah, no, it's so neat. So with this, career that you've had, like what are some of your best memories of just playing, whether it's college, pro? I mean, you got to play in multiple countries. Not many people can say that they played in multiple countries. Some of your fond memories of playing.
Honestly, like I miss the like competitive 4v4s, like 4v4 tournaments. I miss my friends. I really do. Like that bond is kind of like it's like you went through something, that you can't really replicate or people don't really know, and there's like these little like inside jokes, or you just kind of, it's like time travel. You can go back into that moment with that person or with that group, and I do miss that. I think that if I were to do it again, I would do it the same way. I did enjoy, like, when I played in Europe, I enjoyed backpacking and going to all these different countries, like, man, and I went at a perfect time when there really wasn't, like, any terrorist attacks or anything going on, no pandemics, I really utilized my time. I wish it was longer, but, there's a ceiling for everything. But, like, good memories and moments is, like, been in practices and like last minute games and games under the rain, games like where you're fighting for things, like you just can't, like college and professional, like there's just some things you can't describe, but you just are like, man, I do miss that, rondos and jokes and stuff, just like the little nuances that go on that you'll have forever, which is great.
No, those are the things that all those things came flooding back to me. And it's funny about, the things that I take for granted and miss the most are just the camaraderie, just the things that you probably remember, a long bus ride home, but you won the game. Like that win. If you got a 7-hour bus ride, but you got a W in your back pocket, like it could be a 12-hour bus ride. You don't care. You're just on cloud 9. It's not exactly moments of the game as a coach or as a player. It's just those little tiny experiences of like getting that meal at a restaurant in the middle of nowhere, and like you got some wrinkled up hot dogs and maybe some like hot hamburgers have been on the grill for about 3 days, and you're just like, I don't care, man, I'll eat it. We won. Those relationships and friendship, like you said, like the small 4v4, 3v3s, like how many times you got megged in practice, because I was definitely on the top 10 list every week. But yeah, just a lot of those relationships you form in the network, and just that, that you have this family, it's its own family. And that's what I say a lot to my teams when we do our little
No,
kind of group
it
chants.
really
You
is.
say family. It's your family away from your family you chose, kind of.
No, it's true. Like even my club teammates, like I've gone to their weddings. Like we keep in touch, and that's like it's like a covenant. Like that's like even though we're not like your day-to-day best friend, we are still best friends. We just don't see each other every day or communicate every day, but like no matter what, we are definitely close and we are connected and bond. But the my like even like Sky Blue teammates,
Yeah.
great. Love them, and from time to time to year to year, it's always been different. And even in Norway too, you know, like my roommate, we keep in touch. It's just again, it's relationships. Relationships matter the most.
And that was the next question actually about just arriving, touching down in Norway, first day. You're already signed with a team in Norway, but now it's like, okay, I'm on a Norwegian team.
Yeah. That was like a leap of faith. You know, I was doing really well with Sky Blue, and I literally said, I was like, all right, I'm gonna ask for these random things, this contract and all that stuff, and I was like, if that's what God wants, then He'll make it happen. And they were like, all right, come, and you have a day. And I was like, oh, okay, we're really doing this impossible contract. We're really gonna do it. I landed in Norway, and I remember that I landed in Oslo, and because we were gonna go to La Manga for training camp, and I was playing in Grimstad, so I was gonna stay in Grimstad, so that's about 3 hours from. But I was in Oslo, and my coach was like, "Great, you're here." Like, I'm getting used to using iMessage and WhatsApp, and I'm not really sure, and I don't know where I am or what's going on. I'm literally just like vagabonding. And he's like, are you hungry? And I'm like, yeah. And he took me to the McDonald's that's right around the hotel.
Yeah.
And hilarious that we were there, and I was getting a meal there, and we used the fries as what our formation would be and what he likes to use. And I was dying. I took a picture of it, and it was like, we play a 3-5-2, and we're gonna drop back, and you just see these like little fries that we didn't use, and I'm like, this is the game plan for this weekend. This is hilarious. I go back to our hotel, or I think it was just me that was staying there. I don't really know who else was staying there. Maybe it was him. I don't really remember. I walk in and I hear Rachel. I was like, okay, there's no shot. I'm in the middle of Oslo. I'm nowhere. And I hear Rachel Breton, and I was like, this is a joke. I turn around, and it's Tanisha Adams. Because she was playing for Malta.
She was playing up there. I remember that. I don't remember the team, but yeah, I've had her on this show before. Tanisha's been a big fan of the show and on the show.
I think she was playing for Malbach. Or
what's the odds, you know? You know?
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing here? Like I haven't seen her since 2013, and I was like, what is going on? And so her team was staying there, and then
yeah,
or maybe it was Stahlback. Either way, doesn't matter. But anyway, that was a wild intro, very Rachel Walter Mitty event, and it was just like, all right, let's figure it out. Also, my coach was like, it's warmer than New York, so like don't really need to pack very heavy. We had a huge snowstorm that day. Huge snowstorm. It's so cold.
Murphy's Law followed you everywhere, man.
Yeah, I had no warm clothes. I'm like, you're an idiot. Myself. Because like it doesn't mean pack lights for 4 or 5 months.
That's Norway.
In Norway, in the middle of nowhere, where things are kilometers, like very far away. The closest thing was IKEA. I was like, this is not, like, you're so dumb. But I needed that time so much.
Yeah.
It was great. Like it was a great little bit of pause and solitude. And you just focus on your craft. You focus and, you know, I kept my fitness up. I played really well, did really well, started every game. I read a lot. I cooked a lot, learned a lot of things, explored a lot. You know, like we would have the cool thing about Europe is that, like, if I wanted to go fly to France, boom. You know, like I can't. It's a short trip
And it's like pocket change. The amount of money we pay to like hop up,
Yeah.
like
Cheap
Uber,
trip.
something like that, like something like $20-30. You know, I've done
Yep.
some inter-European flights, and I never understood how do these Europeans go to Champions League games, dude? Like, if I want to go to LA, I gotta fork up $500 at the minimum to get to LA.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy. So I was like, the likelihood of me coming there from New Jersey and back for this, not gonna happen. So I might as well cap it out now. So
Yeah,
I literally was like, all right, I'm going to France. It was like for Easter. I went to France and I stayed in Paris and I have family there. And then we took the train to Geneva, stayed in Switzerland for a little bit. I have family there too, which I, again, had no idea. And that was one trip. The other trip we took the ferry to Sweden and to Denmark. And then I think we also took a ferry
I gotta document this all out because I am getting cross-eyed trying to follow I got a little map in the background.
yeah.
I know the listeners, this is radio, but I am broadcasting from my studio in my basement. So, but yeah, I've got a few pins on my map. But I mean, that's just, have you ever written that down like as a blog, like all the places you've been, like in a chronological order at all?
The best thing that I have is like pictures. Like I go back and I'm like, it was this time. Like I remember the order.
Yeah.
But
you got some time. You got some time on your hands. You're not going to.
I know, right? But yeah, no, it's been good. I do enjoy it. I think I think if I were to make a comeback and play after this, I think I'd go play in Spain and visit family, and because I'm a lot Spanish, so I would visit family in Galicia. And
is that how you're gonna walk in the country when they ask your ID? I'm a lot Spanish. Oh yeah, just come on in. You don't even need a passport.
Well, I like to say that I'm Spanish, but then I'm a mutt. Like I'm 7 different things. So it's
you gotta say it in Spanish. I'm American, but I'm a lot Spanish. Oh, you're good.
My gosh, yeah. But no, I think I would. That's the one thing that I think I would have done more.
I've been to Spain. Highly recommend it. You know, it is one of my favorite places in the world. I'm a fan of places around the water, but for Madrid being a landlocked city, I actually really, really love Madrid. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
So highly recommend when things get back to semi-normal. Take a chance, go to Spain. You know, so
yeah.
You would not have a problem with me getting out to one of your games if you go to Spain. So fan club of one will come.
Get the jet going.
Yeah, exactly. It's that easy. So, but no, I mean, I really appreciate what you do for the game. I appreciate, you know, your tenacity and your versatility and all the stuff you do, you know, with, you know, my women's team, Philadelphia Lone Star, you know, doing like a partnership with Technique Football and finding out that you do stuff with Technique Football. I mean, it's just, it's such a beautiful game, and I think right now during the situation we're in, we can do so much networking and helping each other and realizing there's so many hearts that are connected. Like I was doing a talk with the youth club in Toronto a couple weeks ago and found out you knew those people. So it's like it's almost you really educate the young players out there how small of a world it really is. That, you know, this is your time to network and grow yourself, learn the game, get your certifications. You know, there's so many online classes. It's just learn the game, teach the game.
Yep. No, it's true. And the biggest thing that I've learned is networking. But like, I always try to keep it real. You know, like I don't like to reach out and be like, hey, can you do this for me? Like, it's just like, if we have that relationship, great. If I can help you, great. You know, but like, I always say this, and it's a line of mine, but we're all just trying to walk each other home.
Yeah. There you go. Walk each other home alone type thing. And and I tell people a lot, it's like the worst thing somebody can ever say to you is no. You know, I reach out to people and ask them, hey, I want to do this. I want to try that. You know, I want to try this with my women's team. I want to try that. I want to interview you. No. Okay, cool. I'm that guy. But I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'll just ask you straight up, you know, so.
Right.
But no, I really thank you for coming on our show, World Sports Show. Thank you for taking the time out. You're always one of my go-to people. I was actually watching a bunch of our interviews that we had done through the years. Gosh, we've been doing interviews, I think, since pretty much when the NWSL started back up. I must go back to at least 2013, 14, 15, 16. We were always doing interviews, and we have some classics that you always are a good person to talk to, because no matter win or loss, there are certain athletes out there that I know that are going to give me straight up good content and just it is. We've all had those teammates and players we've coached have been around that after a loss, like, I'm not interviewing you or even talking to you.
Yeah.
Can't get the one-word answers.
It's very true.
Yeah. No,
I appreciate
best to your team. If there's anything that we can do for you guys, let us know, because we're all going to be learning together, learning about this beautiful game and what we can and can't do. So just stay safe, and best to your teams out there, Rachel.
Thanks, Charlie. And again, thank you for what you do too, because we wouldn't be who we are if we didn't have you as well.
Well, I appreciate it. This is Charlie Flowe, World Sports Show with Rachel Breton. Stay tuned for more content on World Sports Show.